Hello everyone, it's Blaze and welcome back to more of Can Yugi Muto Beat Total Drama Action? I really liked episode 1 and now, without delay, let's start episode 2 with the merge.
Welcome back to Can Yugi Muto Win Total Drama Action. Last episode took us through the entirety of pre-merge. If you have not watched that video first, a link will be provided in the description. With that being said, let's continue with merge. Episode 16 starts with Justin telling Yugi that he wishes to duel, and Yami activates, telling him that they'll get their opportunity soon. Why is he so impatient? Tyler asks if Justin is giving him trouble, and Yami says not any at all. Justin tells Yami he'll get what he's after soon enough. Heather says that's creepy, and Trent says that he agrees with that wholeheartedly. Izzy tells Eva it would be so much more fun if they just played as many cards as they wanted, and Duncan would say yeah, it would. Eva would say that's the only way they can beat her in this game. She's not gonna let anyone face Yugi without beating her first. Duncan says that's sweet, princess, now how about you play a card? Chris announces that today's challenge is gonna be special. You kids have been ignoring me more than ever, so me and Kaiba came up with a brilliant idea. Let's have a Duel Monsters challenge. Yugi would be ecstatic, but is surprised when he sees Kaiba, this being the first time he's seen him all season. Kaiba whispers to Yugi that he better not lose. Kaiba congratulates them on reaching the merge, and he says that this will be an 8-person tournament. You will have 4,000 life points. Every round you will wager something, and I will approve the match if the wagers are equal in value. If you win, you advance. The winner will get immunity and will get to choose who leaves the game. Everyone would be shocked, and Heather in confessional says to imagine just how much she could do with choose who leaves the game. Everyone would be shocked, and Heather in confessional says to imagine just how much she could do with this much power. Justin in confessional says he can finally get rid of Yugi. Trent in confessional says it's time to get rid of Heather. Chris says to make this fun, competitors will get to create the bracket they want. You'll be asked who you want to face the most and who you want to face the least. Afterwards, a bracket will be made. After everyone is interviewed with only highlights being shown of Yugi saying he hopes he doesn't have to face Justin too early, Justin saying he wants to face Yugi, Heather saying she doesn't care, her deck can't lose, Trent says to give him Heather, he's ready, Duncan says to just not give him Yugi, he doesn't need a round 1 loss, Tyler says he wants to face Yugi, Eva says to let her be the shield for anyone who says they want to duel Yugi, Izzy says she doesn't really play this game, too many rules for her, Chris says it took a while but they got their roster, round 1 is gonna be Trent versus Heather, Trent says nice. Yes, get ready Heather, I'm paying you back for Gwen, Heather asks who died and made him the main character, Chris continues, round 2 is Justin versus Izzy, which Izzy says she doesn't really play, so congrats on the free win, Justin. Justin says that beautiful guys like him deserve to make it to the next round. Round 3 is Duncan versus Tyler. Duncan says, oh come on, I'm in the same side of bracket as Yugi. That's gonna suck next round. Tyler says that he still needs to get through him, and Duncan says, yeah, like I was saying, the next round is gonna suck for me. Finally, it's Eva versus Yugi. Yugi says he can't wait to see how much she's improved, and Eva in confessional asks which brain-dead producer put her against Yugi in round 1. This was supposed to be the finale. Chris starts off with round 1. Trent says that he wagers all of his votes while he remains on the film lot, shocking everyone as Heather says she wagers the same. Kaiba says that since the wagers are equal, the match may commence. Both players draw their cards. Heather looks at her hand and knows the sheer amount of potential here is insane.
Forever to make this.
Trent tells Heather he has no intention of losing. His deck isn't the same trash he had before. Heather says that he helped her get into this game. He hopes he remembers what card got her into this to begin with. Trent wonders what she means by this as he places down Mystical Elf in defensive position. He then places a trap card down. Heather plays Confiscation, costing her 1,000 life points, but she can discard 1 card from her hand. She discards the Flute of Summoning Dragon and finishes her turn by setting a card face down in defense position. Trent draws his next card, Magician of Faith. He sets it onto the field and ends his turn. Heather draws Change of Heart and plays White Magical Hat. It attacks Trent's Magician of Faith, and Trent says she just fell into his trap. Magician of Faith allows him to reclaim a spell from the graveyard, giving him Flute of Summoning Dragon back. Heather ends her turn just clinging to her hand as she prepares her next move. Trent draws Polymerization. All he needs is the Forgiving Maiden and this duel is over. He ends his turn there. Heather draws Dawn Zalug but can't place the card down to attack, not knowing what that face down card is. Instead, she says that she's sorry she has to do this since he got it so soon, but Mind Crush, get rid of that Flute of Summoning Dragon. Trent says easy come, easy go, putting it back into the graveyard. Trent draws Lady of Faith and decides to tribute summon his Parrot Dragon, sacrificing his Mystical Elf. since he knows it's only a matter of time until one of his win conditions come to fruition. He attacks her set card only for Heather to say he's such an idiot, revealing the set card to be Spirit Reaper and the attack to be negated entirely. Trent grits his teeth as he wonders what spells can handle Spirit Reaper. It's fine. Spirit Reaper is weak. He just needs to deal with White Magical Hat first. Heather draws Snatch Steal and plays
I'm
it.
glad they're only doing
Paradragon
Generation 1
with all
cards.
3 of her cards, causing Trent's life points to fall to 700. Trent takes a breath in and draws his card, obtaining the Forgiving Maiden, and saying, "It was fun, Heather, but this duel is over." He places Dark Lord Marie and the Forgiven Maiden down before using Polymerization to fuse into Saint Joan. Trent says this is in memory to his own Joan of Arc, Gwen. He flips his trap card to reveal Metal Morph, boosting Saint Joan's attack. It attacks Paradragon and takes it down. Trent asks what she'll do now. Heather says she has plenty of options. She draws
why is
Crush
it life
Card
points?
Virus and instead
What
decides
about life
to play
points?
the most poetic card, Change of Heart, stealing Saint Joan away from him, as she also plays Don Zalug, it being completely overkill and taking Trent's life points to 0. Heather says, "You added that card to fix yourself, didn't you?" "Thanks, I needed something worth stealing." Trent stares at his cards knowing he just lost everything in one match, apologizing to Gwen as he just stares at the ground. Yugi wants to comfort him, but he knows he can't say anything that would help. Chris tells them to let Trent wallow, next round needs to begin. Justin says he wagers his mirror, and Izzy says, "I wager nothing because I don't play these games and don't want to be anywhere near that creepy eye." Justin says, "Sue yourself." Kaiba whispers to Izzy he will have a new task for her soon. Chris says, "Whatever, she's a wild card anyway, time for round 3. Yugi tells Tyler not to overlook any card in his deck, and Tyler says not to worry, he can't overlook what he didn't read to begin with.
You got this,
Duncan
Tyler.
says he will do all of Tyler's nasty laundry for a month if he manages to win, and Tyler says he will carry Duncan everywhere if he wins. Kaiba says that the terms are equal, battle. Duncan plays Archfiend Soldier in attack position and ends his turn. Tyler draws his cards and doesn't even recognize half of them. He plays Fisher to destroy Duncan's Archfiend Soldier and says that now that there's no monster on the field, he ends his turn safely. Duncan draws reinforcements and sets it face down on the field before playing Ryu Kishin, powered in attack position, and adding onto it with Sword of Dark Destruction. Tyler asks how this can be, and Duncan tells him that he can have more than one card in his deck. He attacks Tyler's life points directly and ends his turn. Tyler draws Gillosaurus and plays it. He adds onto it with Megamorph, turning Gillosaurus' measly 1400 attack to 2800. He attacks Duncan's Ryu Kishin powered and destroys it, taking 800 life points from him. Duncan draws Sword of Deep-Seated, swearing under his breath, and he ends his turn. Tyler draws Pot of Greed and uses it, obtaining Ring of Destruction and Cabazols. He wants to initially only place Cabazols, but he remembers Yugi's words and sets Ring of Destruction down before setting Cabazols in attack position. He attacks with it first, and he tells Duncan that Gillosaurus attacks Duncan with 2800 attack, bringing his life points to 0. He wins. Kaiba says actually your life points exceeded Duncan's after that last attack. As a result, Gillosaurus' attack is brought down to 700, meaning Duncan still lives. Duncan says he definitely knew that already. He didn't have to say it. In confessional, Duncan would say Kaiba really saved him. He was getting ready to admit defeat. Tyler says he ends his turn, then he'll do it next turn. Duncan draws his next card and tells Tyler that it was fun, but his mistake was letting Cabazol's attack first. He uses Foolish Burial to put Summon Skull into the graveyard, Justin asking what he thinks he's doing, as Duncan then uses Monster Reborn to summon it to the field. Justin says, "Oh, that was actually a good plan." Duncan then finishes his Summon Skull with reinforcements and Sword of Deep-Seated, bringing Summon Skull's attack to 3500. Duncan says that he's attacking that Gillosaurus to end this. Tyler says that he activated his trap card, Ring of Destruction. Both sides grow quiet as Duncan yells that he's an idiot, he just took himself out too. "I technically won since it was my monster," and Tyler says I won since it was my trap, but Kaiba interjects, "You both are losers to me. Duncan, you failed to capitalize on several opportunities that would have net you the win. Tyler, your deck is running on hopes and dreams over actual game logic. You both
Like Joey.
failed dual monsters at a conceptual level and don't deserve to advance." Duncan asks who has to fulfill the wager, and Kaiba says they can do it together for all he cares. Yugi bets his chips he got from the episode 11 challenge he still hasn't eaten, and Eva bets her next reward if she gets one, Kaiba agreeing with the wager since Eva's relies on pure chance anyway. Eva draws her cards and tells Yugi that she wants to thank him. She spent so long building the perfect deck, and thanks to you,
This is a good
Yugi, she's
episode.
found it. She plays Reinforcement of the Army using its
So how is
effect
it movie
to grab
related?
Marauding Captain, playing it and using its effect to special summon Amazonia's Chain Monster, ending her turn. Yami draws his cards and says that she does have an impressive deck. He sets his Giant Soldier of Stone in defense and ends his turn. Eva says that's quiet for him, and Yami says that the start usually is. Eva draws another Marauding Captain, playing it on the field and special summoning our Amazonas fighter to the field. She also sets Imperial Order and Magic Cylinder on the field. She attacks the face down card with
good
her
cards.
Marauding Captain tapped in, taking 800 damage but now knowing the face down card. However, she currently doesn't have an answer for it. She ends her turn. Yami draws Horn of the Unicorn. Yugi plays Dispel and Eva activates Imperial Order, paying 700 life points to negate all spells on the field as long as she keeps paying 700 life points. Yami grips his cards tighter, noting that Eva is no slouch. If this was the deck she used in Duelist Kingdom, maybe she could have been the one to face Pegasus instead. Eva draws Exiled Force and pays 700 life points to keep Imperial Order up. She places it in attack position and ends her turn. Yami draws Mirror Force, setting Sengen into defense position as well as Mirror Force before ending his turn. Eva draws Sengenjin and pays another 700 life points for Imperial Order. Eva tells Yami that she's sorry, but this is where it ends. She tributes Amazonas Fighter and Amazonas Chainmaster to summon Sengenjin. She then tributes Exiled Force and gets rid of Yugi's Giant Soldier of Stone. Eva attacks the set card and Sengen is revealed. Yami tells Eva that it was a good try. He draws Mystical Elf to his hand. Eva tries attacking Yami directly, but he says that she activated his trap card, Mirror Force, destroying all of your face-up monsters. Eva watches as her cards are obliterated and she hesitantly ends her turn. Yami draws Mystical Space Typhoon, playing Celtic Guardian in attack position and ending his turn. He knows he can't blindly attack with that trap card set down. Eva draws DD Warrior and plays it, giving another 700 life points to keep Imperial Order going. She takes down Yami's Celtic Guardian and ends her turn.
I forgot.
Yami draws Dark.
I was going to say, why didn't he use the Mystical Space Typhoon? But I forgot about Imperial Order. Oh, I am an idiot.
Colin ends his turn there. Yami internally notes that she actually is incredible, while Eva wonders if she can beat Yami. The fact is that even with having a good deck, she doesn't feel any closer to winning. Eva draws Amazonas Paladin and plays it, being shocked as Imperial Order shatters due to not being able to enforce it anymore. She attacks with both units, and when Amazonas Paladin goes to attack, Yami reveals Kurobo, negating the attack. She then ends her turn. Yami says that it was fun, but it's time to end this. He draws Monster Reborn and plays his first card, Mystical Space Typhoon, removing Eva's magic cylinder from the field. He then plays Dark Hole, removing all of Eva's monsters. To finish it off, he plays Monster Reborn to take Celtic Guardian out of the graveyard before combining it with the Horn of the Unicorn to end Eva in style. As the two stand in the ashes of their battle, Yami says that if she had banished Celtic Guardian, he would have had a much tougher time finishing the duel. If this is how quickly she's improved in a few months, he's worried for everyone else. Eva asks if she could have beat Yami at Duelist Kingdom, and Yami says that he doesn't dwell in hypotheticals often, but there's a strong chance she could have. Eva is satisfied and walks down the steps. Chris says, alright, less sap, more battling. Time for round 2. Heather versus Justin. Heather in confessional would say she didn't make this deck just for some model with an identity crisis to take it from her. Heather says she bets her ability to speak, and Justin says that he wants something far more permanent, just like she does. If she wins, she can have his votes, even his life for all he cares. If he wins, he wants her as a card. Heather asks what does that mean, but Justin says it's fine, I'll lay you out after the challenge. Heather accepts the duel, but Justin in confessional says that she's such an idiot. Once I get my hands on that puzzle, I'm gonna use it to take down the person who gave me this power and take his item too. I'll let Heather go eventually, but this was never my challenge. My challenge is to become the world's most powerful model. Who can truly impose rules on a god? Kaiba accepts the duel, allowing the two to battle. Both sides get their cards, but as Justin reads her mind, Heather is ecstatic. I couldn't ask for a better start. She plays Delinquent Duo first, paying 1,000 life points, so Justin has to discard a random card. Justin's Shining Angel being discarded. Another card of his choosing is discarded, and he discards Spirit of the Harp. Heather then plays Confiscation, and looking through his hand, she discards Call the Haunted from his hand. She then sets 2 spell or traps onto the field and places White Magical Hat in attack position, ending her turn. Justin says, well, if you're finally done, I'll... Heather says, oh, I'm not done yet. She flips over her 2 trap cards, Mind Crush and Trap Dust Shoot, removing all of Justin's cards from his hands, as he notes that Heather is turning out to be more of a problem than he thought.
Impressive.
He reluctantly ends his turn. Heather draws Don Zaluk and plays it in attack position.
He didn't even draw. That is a massive plot hole right there. He never drew a card. Well, this duel is a null and void.
Attacking Justin's life points directly. Don Zaluk's effect makes Justin discard 2 cards from his deck, and Mind Crush and Mobius the Frost Monarch are discarded. She ends her turn. Justin notes that he isn't worried. The deck is of godly quality and wielded by the most beautiful man in the world. He won't lose here. He draws his card, the Agent of Creation Venus, and plays it into attack position, destroying Heather's Don Zaluk and ending his turn. Heather draws Spirit Reaper and sets it onto the field before flipping White Magical Hat into defense. White Magical Hat isn't useful anymore, but Spirit Reaper will save me some time. She ends her turn. Justin asks, what's wrong, Heather? You're not as talkative as before, at least not outwardly. Heather tells him he speaks too much outwardly, just play. Justin draws his card and says that it was fun. Unfortunately for Heather, her Spirit Reaper won't save her a second. Heather wonders how he knew that as Justin activates the Agent of Creation Venus's effect, paying 500 life points to summon Mystical Shine Ball onto the field, using it as material to summon Gragmark, the Rock Monarch, and activates his effect to destroy the Spirit Reaper. Justin then goes to his attack phase and destroys White Magical Hat with Venus before destroying Heather's life points with Grandmark, bringing an end to the match.
Damn.
Heather asks how he knew, and Justin says he's been saying it for a while now and she should have seen it sooner. He's closer to godliness than he is to being mortal now. His eye then activates as Yugi tells him to stop, Justin telling him not to worry, he's next. Heather's soul is yanked into a card and nobody has any words, even Chris is bothered. As Yugi walks up to the finale, Kaiba tells him not to lose and Yami activates, not giving false hope. He doesn't even know if he can beat Pegasus twice. He wonders if he should have done worse to him to stop this. No, whoever gave Justin this is to blame. Justin, let me help you. If I win, you'll let me help. Justin is agitated. Help me. Some help you gave me before. I was happy as a model and you made me see a monster. You changed me, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who I was anymore and you didn't care. You let them talk about me like I was some dumb, talentless model. Yami realizes that Justin didn't just get corrupted. He was actively hurting and he missed it. Yami says he's right, but this won't help him. Justin says on the contrary, I want that puzzle because getting all the pieces, that will make me something truly beautiful. Yami tells him that he can't let him do that. Yami tells Justin that he expects him not to use the eye to cheat if he's truly a god. He can win without his powers. Justin tells Yami that this mind trick won't work. The truth is he respects Yami. He doesn't want any bad blood or excuses when he wins. So when he wins, it'll be because his deck is superior to Yugi's, and Yami will choose him in the end. Yami says internally, you underestimate Yugi and humanity as a whole. I'll show you why. Justin doesn't respond and Yami knows he won't use it. Kaiba pauses for a moment, his heart beating as he says that both sides' wagers are equal. Duel. Chris says equal? There's nothing equal about this. If Justin wins, he enslaves the world in cards. Kaiba just tells him to trust Yami. It worked for him against Pegasus the last time. Both draw their cards and Yami starts setting Feral Imp in defense position and ending his turn. Justin sets Mystical Shine Ball in defense and ends his turn. Justin feels his heart beat more, feeling the pressure now that he can't read Yami's mind. Yami asks what's wrong. He looks pretty nervous. Justin tells him he's shaking in excitement at the thought of having the puzzle for himself. Yami draws Dispel and sets Sengen, ending his turn. Justin draws Lightning Vortex. He tributes Mystical Shine Ball and summons the Agent of Judgment, Saturn. He attacks Sengen first and Yami activates the effect to obtain Great Soldier of Stone from his deck. Justin ends his turn. Eva asks Justin what he's gonna gain from this and Justin says it's too late to try to talk to him now. Just watch as he wins this duel. Yami draws a Mirror Force and thinks you're wrong, Justin. The one who will win this duel are me and Yugi. He sets Giant Soldier of Stone and ends his turn. Justin draws Mind Crush and sets it onto the field. He thinks, okay, you have the looks of a god, time to think like a god. What does Yami want? What is his win condition? He figures it out and plays DD Designator, telling Yami to discard all Monster Reborn cards. Yugi is shocked and discards of it from his hand, telling Justin that it was a good play but hardly godly. Justin says that's not all, attacking the set card with Saturn, and Yami activates Mirror Force, destroying Justin's monster cards on the field. Justin uses Lightning Vortex to destroy the face-up Giant Soldier of Stone, and he sets Mystical Elf before ending his turn. Yami notes that Justin is really something special. His deck has noticeably improved. He draws Celtic Guardian and sets it onto the field in defense. He prepares to end his turn, but Justin activates his trap card, Mind Crush. He tells Yami that he thought of what he'd want the most, and he knows Yami has Dark Magician, so banish it. Yami says that he's right, and he does so, ending his turn. Justin draws Call of the Haunted, and he uses Call of the Haunted to summon the Agent of Judgment Saturn back into attack position, and he tributes Mystical Elf to summon Mobius the Frost Monarch. He attacks Yami's monsters and destroys them both before ending his turn. Chris asks Kaiba if he can really do this. It looks like Yami just lost all of his monsters. Kaiba tells him to just keep watching. This is when Yami does his best work. Yami draws a card and places it onto the field. Dark Hole swallows all your monsters and I end my turn. Justin wonders what he can do now. Yami is just as tenacious as advertised. He draws Marshmallow and sets it into defense position before ending his turn. Yami draws Pot of Greed and plays it, allowing him to draw 2 cards from his deck, obtaining Gaia the Fierce Knight and Mystical Elf. He sets Mystical Elf and ends his turn. Justin draws the Agent of Creation Venus and plays it into attack position, ending his turn. Yami draws Swords of Revealing Light and plays it immediately, keeping Justin from attacking for 3 turns. He also looks at Kurobo before setting it onto the field. If he wants to win, he has to trust the cards completely. Justin draws Thestalos the Firestorm Monarch and pays 500 life points to summon a mystical Shine Ball thanks to Venus's ability. He tributes the Shine Ball to summon Thestalos and activates the effect. If it draws Gaia, Yugi's done for, but if it draws Dispel, he survives. Everyone watches in bated breath as the card is drawn and placed into the graveyard. Dispel. Cheering erupts, but Justin says not to cheer yet, it's still not over. He attacks. Nothing happens and Justin asks what's happening before Yami asks if he's forgotten about his Swords of Revealing Light, and Justin says he was just looking ahead. Yami loses 3 turns from now. He ends his turn. Yami draws Horn of the Unicorn and tells Justin that he's underestimated Yugi for the last time. He tributes Mystical Elf and Kurobo to summon Gaia the Fierce Knight. Justin asks what he's going to do with that. His attack is still weaker than Thestalos. Yami says he's not finished. He places Horn of the Unicorn on top of it and destroys Thestalos. I end my turn. Justin draws Heavy Storm and plays it to destroy Horn of the Unicorn, and he flips the Agent of Creation Venus into defense, ending his turn. Yami tells Justin that he was right. Someone is going to lose on turn 10. It's just going to be Justin. He draws a card and places it face down in the spell and trap spot, and he destroys Venus with Gaia before ending his turn. Justin knows that as long as he has Marshmallow, he's fine. Gaia can't get around it. Justin draws his card and says that at first he thought he'd have to keep Marshmallow there forever, but he tributes Marshmallow to summon Grandmarg the Rock Monarch, and he ends his turn. Next turn Yami, and it's over. Yami tells him not so fast, Justin. I use brain control and pay 800 life points to steal Grandmarg the Rock Monarch from you. The first attack will come from your own unit, but the finisher will be mine. End it, Gaia. Gaia takes Justin's life points to 0, and Justin stares at the life point counter in shock. He says that this can't be. The Millennium Eye made me a god. Yami says that these items are as much of a curse as they are a perceived blessing. This time I'll make sure Yugi stays to make sure you find the correct path. He prepares to mind crush Justin again, but he's interrupted by a smoke bomb dropping in, everyone becoming hysterical in confusion. Kaiba telling his guards to block all the exits. When the smoke clears, nothing is there, but Justin is unconscious. Yami runs to him but is shocked as he sees Justin laying there without the eye. Something or someone took it away from him. Heather wakes up and asks if she's alive. Tyler moving to help her up. Later on, Chris gets off the phone and tells all of the contestants that Justin isn't coming back. He seems to be in some type of coma. Of course, Yugi, you won immunity, but there will not be a vote tonight. All wagers besides the one with Justin are to be enforced. That's all I gotta say. Also, there's pizza in the chow hall if anyone's hungry. Kaiba bought it to try and boost morale. Heather tells him to just leave, and Chris says, sheesh, I'm going. Heather asks if he's okay, and Yugi says no. He's gonna go to bed early tonight. Everyone else should still have fun. Duncan says that it wouldn't be right to keep the wager the same after that. How about they split the duties? Tyler says he agrees with that. Yugi sees Trent inside, and Yugi just sees another reminder of the people he's failed by being here. Eva wants to say something but knows it's not the time. As she walks away, she hears Izzy talking to someone on her PDA and hears Kaiba's voice. Yes, make sure to reveal what Tyler knows by the final 6. Eva wonders what this could possibly mean. Episode 17 starts with Trent telling Yugi he needs to vote him out. Yugi asks why. Gwen would have wanted him to fight. Trent says he has no idea what Gwen would have wanted. Gwen would have wanted him to take Heather down and he failed to do it. Please, Yugi, this isn't up for debate. I lost the only challenge I mattered in, and as long as I stay in, Heather gets to use my vote against everyone else. I don't want to be responsible for your loss. Yugi can't handle this pressure and leaves. Eva corners Tyler and asks if there's anything he wants to say, and Tyler says that he values her as an ally. Eva says that she's watching him as she leaves. Duncan asks what that was about, and Tyler says he's not sure. Heather is still shaken from being turned into a card, but she tries to form an alliance with Izzy, to which Izzy immediately agrees because it keeps her out of the spotlight in another episode. Chris reveals the next episode's challenge to be a superhero theme. Yugi asks if Heather is okay, she's shaking, and Heather tells him to shut up. She's fine. Chris continues. The first part of the challenge will have you designing your own superhero identity, and Yugi asks how Justin is, and Chris calls Kaiba. Yeah, it's Chris. These kids are more worried about Justin than they are about the games. Alright, yeah, sounds good. Alright campers, Kaiba's gonna personally fund any therapy needed for after these games to anyone who's affected, but for right now, we need you to compete so I can keep my job. Yugi tells Trent to let him help with his outfit, and Trent says he's not gonna compete. If he wins immunity, then Yugi will be at risk. Duncan tells him that he can use the assistants. Tyler has stabbed into his hand 3 times trying to sew. Tyler says that gives him an idea. When they're showing them off, Chris is rather indifferent, with a lot of them clearly not being up to the quality he was imagining when he drafted this in the show hotel room. That is until Tyler rushes in. Worry not, campers, it is I, Duct Tape Man. Chris says A+ on the entrance. What are you supposed to be? Tyler says that he's Duct Tape Man. After a freak accident at the duct tape factory, he now has all the strength, powers, and attributes of duct tape. Chris says cool, ultimately pointless. Hate to say it, though, that's probably the best one here. That is until Izzy shows up with the robot from the first episode, and she says she turned it into a mech. Chris asks where Chef put the keys to that, and Chef says he may have left them on a bench somewhere. Chris says, well, although you've won, I don't know how well you'll do in the next part of the challenge. The next part of the challenge is to save a hostage from a villain and then to capture a villain after going through an obstacle course. Tyler is first and he says it's time for Duct Tape Man, but as he reaches the power line, Chef hits him with a bowling ball and Tyler begins to fall until one of his duct tape rolls gets caught and he unravels to the ground safely. Chris says that he's now retired. Duncan rushes through the course doing the best until Eva steps up. She takes a look at Yugi's current condition and locks in, taking the bowling balls and throwing them back at Chef, making Chef run away only for Eva to actually chase him, tackling to the ground and throwing punches into him as Chef tells her to chill out. It's only him, Chef. Eva says she's sorry, she's just a bit on edge. Chef says all you stupid kids are on edge. He needs to rethink being a part of these challenges. Chris says that the last contestant up is, oh no, Izzy. Izzy just tramples the entire obstacle course and Chris says that she did catch the killer, but she also caught about 30 innocents. Izzy says, woo, bonus points. Chris says, yeah, no. Eva, congrats on your victory, and for the rest of you, see you at elimination. Tyler asks Yugi if they can talk, and Yugi says he isn't the target today. Tyler says he sincerely doubts that. Yugi asks what he means, and Tyler says it was him. Yugi instantly knows what he means, and he can't even identify the right emotion to convey here. He can only ask why, and Tyler says he didn't sabotage it. It was just his spot, and he messed it up, like he always does. Yugi asks who else knows, and Tyler says only him. Yugi says to tell everyone. Tyler asks why, and Yugi says he's here to be forgiven and absolved of all guilt, right? Well, I'm not going to do that for you. I've decided that I'm never using the Millennium Puzzle on anyone again. It's only a curse that hurts people. Tyler grips the handle before telling Yugi that he's blaming himself too much. He leaves Yugi in the empty trailer. Tyler thanks everyone for coming. Heather asks what this is about. She needs a shower. Tyler says that back during pre-merge, Duncan says that Harold was a dweeb and Beth was the idiot who messed it up. Why is he bringing this up now? Tyler says he was actually the idiot who messed it up. That was his part of the cart. Duncan and Eva are shocked and Duncan says that he knew and didn't tell anybody. Tyler says that they would have voted him off and Eva says he's got that right, Snake. You let two people fall for you. How selfish can you be? Tyler says to wait, he's sorry. Duncan says he can be sorry for his entire life for all he cares, and Tyler says he'll quit if that's what they want, and Eva says not to worry, he's being voted out tonight anyway. Heather tells Tyler good work breaking up the Yugi alliance, and Tyler would say that wasn't his intention, and Heather says she knows, but that's what he did. Izzy in confessional would say that's so messed up. Tyler ruined my payday. Trent tells Tyler that he knows all too well what it's like to make a mistake, but he needs a favor from him. Chris welcomes everyone to elimination. Tyler, you may have sealed your fate through your pesky conscience. Trust me, dude, take that to the grave. Trent says personally he thinks Tyler did the right thing. Better late than never, now he can fix it. Duncan says it won't be fixed until he leaves. Chris tells them to hush it. Gilded Chris awards go to Yugi, Eva, Duncan, Izzy, surprisingly Heather, and finally Tyler. Duncan says, of course. Trent says that he bids Heather farewell. He hopes she got all she wanted out of his votes. And Heather says, please, I voted for you. Why do you think you're leaving? Trent says, wait, you can't mean that this was just another part of your plan. Heather winks and Trent says he guesses he didn't learn a single thing after all. Yugi tells Trent at the limousine that he voted for him, and Trent would tell Yugi he knows. He likes to imagine he still would have left, even without her influence. Trent leaves and Yugi is left with the absence of another friend. Izzy is on her PDA waiting for the next call, but Kaiba tells her it's time to go. Izzy asks what he means. She did everything he asked of her, and Kaiba says she did. She'll be paid handsomely, but right now she's needed somewhere else. Izzy says that he must be confused. She won the comeback challenge. She's earned her right to be here. Kaiba asks if she's really that dumb. He planned for her to come back since she was the only one who would have accepted the deal. She's done her part. Now leave gracefully with money, or take your chances at this game, but we'll never work together, and the money we agreed upon, consider it gone. Izzy says that he can't do that, but Kaiba says that she betrayed the contract first. The contract says 3 tasks, you've only done 1. Izzy thinks about quitting for a moment but decides not to, saying that she's in a good spot in these games. She wants to see how far she can get. Kaiba says that's disappointing and leaves. Heather in confessional says that getting rid of Tyler would have been nice, but then it would have left the votes at 3-3 with a tie being inevitable at the next vote. Now that Tyler's still in, the Grips Alliance will always be targeting him. As long as he stays, the Grips remain dysfunctional. Episode 19 starts with Tyler asking if he can sit with Duncan, and Duncan tells him to get out. Tyler sits alone and tears up, but Eva slams her fists on the table. You don't get to be sad, you're still here. Tyler says that she's right, and he exits the chow hall. Eva sits down and says that her anger issues have been getting worse. Duncan says that she's still not anywhere near what she was last season, and Eva thanks him. Tyler enters the trailer to see Heather and Yugi, and Tyler asks if Yugi is really joining an alliance with her, and Yugi says there's something a bit bigger going on than the game if you couldn't tell already. Tyler sees Heather's trembling hands and asks what's wrong with her, and Yugi says she's still shaken from Justin turning her into a card. Tyler says, oh yeah, what was that like? Yugi shouts at Tyler to have some respect, but Heather says it's alright, it's scary. I mean, you could see the world, but you can't interact with it. It was the first time I've never been able to say a single thing. Yugi says it's his fault, and Tyler tells him to stop talking like that. Yugi has helped so many people here, and
Agreed.
Yugi asks who he saved. Heather has been affected twice, Justin went back to evil and is now in a coma, Trent lost everything, you're alienated, who have I helped? Tyler says it's funny, he thought about telling them the first day, but when he thought about it, he knew he would have been eliminated, and then he wouldn't have been able to learn any more duel monsters from Yugi. Maybe he's not the best example, but he's learned a lot from him. Heather asks if that's his attempt at cheering him up. Tyler would say that at least he's trying. Izzy is watching everyone's confessionals, trying to find any information she can use to get an edge, but she hears rustling as Bakura enters. Izzy says, oh, it's you. Bakura is a bit perplexed that she knows him, but shrugs it off. Do you seek revenge after Kaiba abandoned you? To win these games, to show Kaiba's a fool for abandoning you? I can give you such power. He shows off the eye to Izzy, and Izzy says, no thanks, gold isn't my color. Bakura says to think about what he's offering, a chance at godliness. Izzy says no thanks, leaving Bakura, to which Bakura would mumble that kids these days have no ambition. Chris tells him that today's challenge is a fairy tale challenge. Eva will be your princess since she won the last challenge. The rest of you 5 knights will have to get past a bridge guarded by Chef while the knights wear apparel that blocks your vision. Yugi getting a huge debilitating wig that matches his weird hairstyle. Tyler gets a helmet with barely any vision. Izzy gets a wizard's hat, Heather gets a blindfold, and finally Duncan gets a cloak. Yugi goes first and falls off the bridge. Izzy goes next and just hops over Chef to reach the end. Heather goes next and ends up falling off the bridge. Tyler goes next and Chef slams his axe into Tyler's helmet, and Tyler says he's glad that was there, before telling Chef to take this, hitting him in the stomach with his helmet and running to the end. Finally, Duncan goes and peeks under his blindfold to know what Chef will do, and he reaches the end. Eva comes down in a dress, and she says she didn't sign up for this, as Heather begins to laugh as well as Izzy. Yugi says it looks great, and Eva thanks him. She hopes he wins. Duncan says yeah, he isn't gonna do that with his broken leg. Izzy, Tyler, and Duncan now must slay the dragon and climb the tower to rescue Eva. Yugi says that he can't wait to see a dragon, and Chris says Kaiba didn't want to build one, so instead we're just reusing the monster robot. Izzy says, ooh, that's my prince right there, getting weird looks from everyone else as Eva yells down that Duncan better make it up here then. She couldn't stand the other two getting immunity. Izzy rushes in first, and Duncan tackles her just for the two to battle until Izzy rolls out of the way to dodge the monster's foot, and she asks Tyler if he wants to win, he needs to stop Duncan. Run with the monster chasing you. Tyler runs away as Duncan and the monster chase him, and Izzy tells him to stop moving, making Duncan stop and for the monster to suddenly trip over him. Tyler says that was great before beginning to climb up the monster to earn the right to climb the tower, but Izzy just throws him off of it and says sorry, but it was my plan that won, killing the monster before telling Eva that her prince is coming. Eva says great. Eva says that she better not expect a kiss, and Izzy says oh no, she'd kiss Yugi before her. Eva asks what that's supposed to mean, and Izzy says oh come on, his weird hair, the puzzle, his weird fascination with the card game, he's insane. Nobody in their right mind would find him attractive. Eva tells her to take that back, and Chris says that this fairy tale doesn't end in a kiss, both of you will fight for immunity. Eva says she wouldn't have had it any other way. Izzy and Eva would have a legendary duel, Izzy excelling in speed and technique while Eva has the raw power advantage as well as durability. Izzy delivers delivers a flurry of punches into Eva as she plans to finish it with one more punch, but Eva grabs the punch and throws her off the tower, Izzy landing on the monster, Chris announcing that Eva has won immunity.
Go Eva!
Again. Chris welcomes them to the elimination ceremony. Congrats on your immunity, Eva, 2 in a row. Before we continue, I have some news. Eva didn't want to be presented as a princess, so the rights will go to the only other black-haired girl here, Heather. Here's your contract with 0% profits and your Gilded Chris Award. Yugi and Duncan, you two are safe. And finally, Tyler, you're safe. Izzy is shocked that she's taken away to go to the limousine, Eva saying in confessional that she would have voted for Tyler tonight if not for Izzy's comments. Heather in confessional says that she realized Izzy was the only plausible answer. I just realized I don't like working with people who I don't know what their next action will be. Kaiba tells Bakura to get out of those bushes, he knows he's there. Bakura says it's quite peculiar that the producer would step out to see him. He doesn't seek power, does he? Kaiba says no, he just can't let Bakura desecrate these games any longer. If he agrees to stop interfering, he can be brought into next season as a contestant.
What,
Bakura
really?
asks if he's really thought this through, laughing at Kaiba's insolence. Kaiba says he's weighed his options and he believes it's safer to have him on the show than to have him like this. Bakura says that he accepts his offer, but he's wrong if he thinks it'll be any
interesting.
safer for them. Episode 20 begins with Eva asking how this could happen, and Duncan would say that things are still good, they're still in here, and Eva says not just that, but everything. They lost so much in one season and she doesn't know if Yugi will be okay. Duncan asks what's wrong with Yugi, and Eva asks how he didn't notice that he was different. Duncan says he doesn't know, he was trying to win immunity. Eva says some teammate he is. Duncan asks why she cares, it's not like she has cheered Yugi up, and Eva says that is true, she's to blame as well for his current condition. Yugi asks Heather if the nightmares have stopped, and Heather says they haven't, not yet. Tyler enters with Waters asking how the two are holding up, and Yugi says that they're fine, thanks. Tyler tells him he doesn't get it, what's the appeal of turning someone into a card? Heather says it's the same principle she had about everyone else, they were disposable, usable whenever desired. Justin just made it physical. I've never seen what I've done to people like that before. Tyler says it doesn't feel good, does it? Yugi tells him to be respectful, but Heather asks what she has done to earn respect. He's right, it doesn't feel good. It feels pretty bad actually, but what can I do now? Yugi tells her that she can change, he believes in her, and Heather just laughs. Me? Change? You're too optimistic, Yugi. Tyler tells her to shut up, she can sulk all she wants, but until she decides to make a change, then nothing will change. Every night will suck, you'll have nightmares every day, and you won't be able to live with yourself. I know because I lived it ever since I let Harold and Beth take the fall for me. Heather is shocked but says that he's right. She may never want to be seen with these two losers ever again, but they both have an ally if they want her as one. She leaves and Yugi asks what he just did, and Yugi says he was just trying to be like him. The campers are given a letter that gives a hint to Chris's whereabouts. Duncan saying that he's not going to actively search for Chris, and Tyler says no kidding. Duncan says shut up, Tyler. Yugi asks when Chris hasn't had a surprise for them, and Heather says yeah, surprise, not prize. Most of the time it puts our lives at risk. Eva says whatever, she's going to win immunity for the 3rd challenge in a row. Using the hints in the document, Heather pieces together that Chris is hiding in the safe from episode 13, and he uses the numbers in the document to find the combination. Heather asks for a prize, and Chris says he hardly remembers mentioning a prize, but thanks for releasing him. Tonight's challenge is a mystery challenge. They'll be commencing the challenge tonight. Every competitor must bring DNA samples and fingerprints. As everyone shows up at the train station at night, they all drop in their DNA. Chris says that since Heather got him out of that room in the last part, here's her prize, some cheese puffs. Heather asks how this is a prize, and Chris says that some people are so ungrateful. They all get onto the train where Chris mentions that this will be a party to celebrate until they reach the destination. The lights flicker out and Chris says that they can't kill the host. When the lights flip back on, they see Chris's dead body, and Yuki says this can't be, and Heather says yeah, the killer could have waited until I won the million. Tyler says wait, then that means one of the killers here is us. Eva moves towards Yugi as the others look at Eva, and Eva asks what they're looking at her for. Duncan says that they need to handcuff her for everyone's sake, and Yugi tells them to relax. They have no proof it was one of them. There's probably an engineer that did it. Tyler grabs the phone and says that the lines are cut. Heather asks if they're really that stupid. I mean, who guarantees that they're even on a train? They weren't on a plane in episode 11. Duncan says, yeah, that's true. Look out the window, Tyler. Tyler does so and almost gets his head taken off by a sign telling the others that they're definitely on the move. The lights flicker out and Yugi points out that the body is gone. Heather says that they're being stupid. Duncan, you search the other cars. Duncan says gladly. Tyler sees a green hair on the ground and says that Duncan must have done it. Duncan enters and says the other train cars are empty, and Heather says that these idiots think you killed Chris. Duncan says, why would I do that? I want to win this game too. However, Eva and Tyler handcuff him, not trusting him. Duncan says that this feels a little too relatable for comfort. Heather says they need to get off this train, and Eva says that once the train stops, she knows the killer will run away. She'll catch them there. Yugi continues searching for any evidence, not knowing what to do. Yugi finds a handkerchief covered with orange powder. Eva takes it and says that Heather did it. She was lying. Now cuff her. Chris enters and says he really got them. Today's winner is the one who solved the crime, Eva. You get a reward, but since you wagered your reward in the episode 16 challenge, the reward goes to Yugi. Heather says that's not fair. If she knew she killed Chris, she would have just turned herself in. Chris says to cry about it. The evidence was right there. Yugi, you will be enjoying a night out at the movies with one friend of your choice. Yugi says he picks Eva since she won the challenge. The two watch the movie and Yugi asks if they can talk. Eva says they can talk and watch the movie. Yugi says that maybe she should try to get along with Tyler, and Eva says to just shut up and watch the movie. Duncan asks Heather why she's saving that loser. Doesn't she know what he did? Heather says yeah, and she's not exactly innocent either. How does this surprise you? Duncan says, you know what? My bad. You're actually right. This is something you do. Tyler would say he messed up, but he can at least pretend to be nice before he's voted out. He's made peace that he will leave, but that doesn't give Duncan the right to treat him like garbage. Duncan says yeah, and you don't have the right to stay over Beth and Harold after what you did. Heather says, oh my god, shut up. You didn't even like those two. Just be honest that you feel bad that you messed up and made the wrong call eliminating Beth. Duncan asks how she knows that, to which Heather would say she didn't until he admitted to it. Good guess though. Duncan tells them both to screw off before leaving. Episode 21 begins with Heather asking Eva if she kissed Yugi at the movies, and Eva would say no, she didn't. Heather says of course not. You think it'll fall right into your laps like you're a princess. Remember, I have that contract. You gave it up. So you need to either tell him you like him or stop hovering around him so much because it's creepy. Eva says they're just friends, and Heather says whatever, leaving her alone. Yugi tells Tyler and Duncan that they need to talk, and Duncan says he has nothing to say, and Tyler says really? Because I thought we should begin with Beth. Duncan says that wasn't his fault. He didn't know. He made a call. Tyler says that it was the wrong call, and Duncan says that if he just told them initially, then they wouldn't have had to go through this. Yugi says that he thinks he gets it. You feel guilty because you messed up and now we're trying to course correct. The problem is that it won't help. Duncan asks what he means, and Yugi says that for Tyler, getting eliminated is the next step for him so he can apologize to Harold and Beth. But what about you? You won't be happy once Tyler leaves. That mistake will still exist. You have to admit that until you can grow. Duncan says that he didn't make the mistake. Tyler did for lying. Tyler says that he should be more like him and take accountability for his actions. And Duncan says he wishes he would have been a snake like him and just eliminated Tyler before he knew it was him for sure. Yugi realizes this is going to be much harder than he thought. Chris tells them that today's movie genre is a rock and roll biography movie. Duncan would say in confessional that he's going to ace this challenge. Chris tells them that everything starts with a down on their luck kid getting a massive break that allows them to perform in front of a huge audience. He's then brought into the world full of substances he can't talk about around 16-year-olds. Some things you need to know. You need to know how to rock a guitar, how to work with paparazzi, and finally how to trash a hotel room. Because I'm the host and I can do what I want, I'm bringing someone back on the show. Everyone awaits the person until Chris says he's messing with them. What host would bring someone back at Final 5? Let's go get our rock and roll on. First part of the challenge is to rock out on the guitar. Tyler says he doesn't know how to play guitar, and Chris says that since he guesses most of them can't read, much less read sheet music, it'll be a guitar adjacent. Press the colored buttons and avoid being electrocuted by the guitar. The campers start playing and Yami activates, doing so good that his guitar lights on fire and Yami throws it away as it buzzes with electricity. Tyler gets too into it and falls off the stage. Heather is acing the button prompts, but Duncan's too cool for school. Energy is doing great, and Duncan wins the first part since he didn't try hard like a true rock star. Duncan says to watch and learn, baby doll. Maybe one day she can rock and roll as hard as him, just for Heather to slam her guitar into his groin. Chris welcomes them to the second part. Campers will have to go through an obstacle course where they'll have to deal with paparazzi. Duncan gets a backstage pass, and so he gets to go halfway through the course. Heather does insanely well, saying that what's paparazzi if not just people who are happy to be manipulated? What? I just don't want to use people like disposable pawns. Paparazzi aren't people. Heather checks the swag bag she grabbed where she sees Chris's autobiography, saying that's tacky. Duncan is up next and kills it. Literally, he broke most of the cardboard cutouts. Eva is next and she starts well, but as her picture gets taken, she becomes flustered and just runs to the end, breaking all the cardboard on the way there. Tyler comes out excited but slips and slides all the way to the backstage. backstage. Yugi is nice with the paparazzi, treating them all with respect, and even gets past the bouncer cutout by just being too small for him to have seen. Chris says that the winner is Yugi. Yugi celebrates with Chris saying that the paparazzi is another term for exposure, and Yugi has been exposed, so he wins a reward for the next challenge. Chris tells him that the final challenge is to destroy a hotel room. Every contestant will have 30 seconds, with Yugi getting an extra 10 seconds. Yugi tries to repair the damage others commit, and when Eva enters, she says that Mama's home, destroying the room completely. Eva tells them that she's sorry they had to see that. Yugi asks if she feels better, and Eva says that it's definitely what she's been waiting for all season. Chris lets Yugi have his extra 10 seconds, but realizes there isn't anything left to destroy, and he gives the win to Eva for the 4th episode in a row. Chris welcomes them all to the Gilded Chris ceremony. You all know the routines, and this was pretty unanimous, with it being 5 votes entirely against Tyler. Any reason you voted yourself off, dude? Tyler says he's ready to go. Chris says, alright then, the limousine awaits. Tyler tells Duncan that he hopes he can take responsibility for what he did, and Duncan says, bite me. Yugi says he'll see him soon, and Tyler waves goodbye to everyone as he's taken away. Eva asks Yugi if he wants to duel, and Yugi says he'd like that. Heather would tell the ladies to enjoy the rest of their night, she's going to bed. Duncan says he's with her. Duncan asks if she's thinking what he's thinking, and Heather says, oh yeah, Eva or Yugi got to go. They fist bump, and Duncan asks if she wants to hang out for a little bit, and Heather says to keep trying, she doesn't want to go on a date just because they're in an alliance. Duncan says that's not, damn it, whatever, he's going to bed. Episode 22 starts with Duncan telling Yugi they need to get rid of Eva. She's won the last 4 challenges. Yugi says that means she deserves to be in the finale though, and Duncan asks if he even wants to win, and Yugi says he should give it some thought now that he's in the final 4. Duncan says, dude, if I knew you were this apathetic, I wouldn't have brought you this far. Yugi says it's not apathy, he just thinks everyone is doing incredible and he feels pretty small in comparison. Duncan says that he's small, but not in ability. He doesn't want it to hurt him, so he'll just say it. He's in an alliance with Heather, and they're voting for either Eva or Yugi tonight. Yugi can't believe what he's hearing. He always knew that this was required to win, but hearing it so blatantly was incredibly off-putting. If that's what he wants, then me and Eva will never lose again. Heather tells Eva to just ask him, and Eva says no. Imagine if he doesn't like her, it would ruin their friendship. Heather says no, it wouldn't. You know it won't. God, you're unbearable, you know that? At least I'm honest with Duncan about my intent. You aren't even honest with yourself. Eva asks what she's talking to Duncan for, and Heather says, oops, did I say that out loud? A smile on her face. Eva tells her that she better not target Yugi, and Heather says, oh, I won't, as long as he wins immunity, in which case we'll eliminate you instead. Eva says she's terrible, the same goes for them. The campers sleep, and in the morning they're taken to Camp Wawanakwa for their karate movie challenge. The teams will be Eva and Yugi versus Duncan and Heather. Duncan says in confessional that if he didn't know any better, he'd assume they did this on purpose. Chris tells them that each team will have a trainer and a fighter. Train in whatever style you want, and we'll meet back up in 4 hours. Yugi asks what fighting style Eva should use, and Eva says she usually just punches things and it works out. Heather asks Duncan if he can be Eva, and Duncan says yeah, if he gets a weapon. The two sides train, and Chris welcomes them to the Kung Fu Showdown. It's revealed to be fighting with the fighters in robot suits, with the trainers controlling the robots. The two sides fight, and Heather lets Duncan get hit a few times, not moving her controller, Duncan begging for her to do something. Heather says only if he agrees to give her half the million if he makes it to the finale. Duncan says, are you serious? Getting shaken up with another punch as he says, fine, but it better go the other way as well. Heather says it won't, and then with one sudden punch, punches Eva's robot with both arms. Yami activating in response and suddenly making the robot bend backwards to avoid the punch and deliver an uppercut that shatters the mech and sends Duncan flying into the air before falling to the ground uninjured but shaken. Yugi asks if he's okay, and Duncan says never better, sold half of the million for a loss. Chris tells him that the next challenge will be interesting for Yugi and Eva. Yugi says that he hates when he says that they're interesting, that usually means they're dangerous. Chris says that exciting means dangerous, interesting always means life-threatening. They both groan in response. They must take a glass of tea up the highest mountain on the island. They must use the tea as a bartering chip and then grab the bonsai tree and bring it back down. If you don't have enough tea, the Kung Fu Master will attack you. First one to bring it back down wins. For Duncan and Heather, their sentence is Zen lessons, aka kitchen duties. Eva says this sucks, and Duncan says seriously, he wishes he was doing their job. Eva tells Yugi that he did great as a leader, and Yugi asks if she thinks so. He's been doubting whether he can truly help anyone recently. Eva asks why he'd think he can't. I mean, you helped me. Yugi asks what she means, and Eva says to remember what she was like last season. I wasn't always this calm. I used to have outbursts over everything, but you've really helped calm me down. Yugi
Very
doesn't know
true.
what to say and keeps climbing. Chef drops a bucket filled with knives onto the table and tells Heather and Duncan to grab one. Duncan says, well, if they have to kill each other, then that's how it is. Heather says he won't even land a scratch on her. Chef tells them to shut up. They're cooking kung fu noodle soup, vegetable stock, noodles, and the 7 deadliest fish known to man. Now, who's ready to start? Both Duncan and Heather huddle into the corner. Yugi asks Yami if he can tap in and help, and Yami does so, inadvertently almost dropping his glass during the transformation, but Eva catches him. Yami staring into her eyes and thanking her for catching him, climbing up once again. Heather puts some tongs in the water and they get torn up. Duncan says he can handle this as a friend. The octopus grabs his head and Heather says, thanks, friend. She will get started on the noodles. Yami asks Eva why she hasn't asked Yugi out yet, and Eva asks why he's lecturing her too. And Yami says that she clearly likes him. Eva says she can't. Wait, wouldn't that mean I'd be dating you too? Yami would say, nope, not at all. As the two reach the top, Eva pours out her glass, Yami asking what she's doing. Eva tells him that she didn't get the fight she wanted earlier, she'll get it here. Yami says, right. Moving past the two to retrieve the bonsai tree, and as he's climbing down, the Kung Fu Master gets thrown off the cliff. Yami reaches the bottom first, and Chris reveals that Yami will be getting a feast prepared by our 2 chefs in the kitchen. Yami would say that actually he wants to give Eva the reward. Eva says really, and Yami says that Eva gave one of hers to him, it's only fair. In confessional, Yami would say that he doesn't trust Heather and Duncan to have prepared anything correctly. Eva sits down to eat the meal that they've prepared, the meal having not been prepared correctly and still having toxins from the jellyfish in them. Yugi asks if she's gonna be okay, and Chris says yeah, Kaiba made sure we had some antidotes in the back when the losers inevitably messed up. Yugi retrieves the medicine, and after the swelling goes down, Eva tells Heather and Duncan that they're dead, chasing after them while Yugi tries to chase after Eva to mediate the situation. Episode 23 starts with Chris waking them all up in the middle of the night. Today they'll be going to space. Heather asks why he's wearing a prehistoric outfit, and Chris says that his astronaut outfit didn't arrive in time. Chris tells them that today they'll be in some out-of-this-world challenges, but first they have some gifts from home for each of them. Yugi gets the original box that held the pieces to the Millennium Puzzle, as well as a picture of Joey, Taya, Tristan, and Yugi in it. Eva asks if those are his friends, and Yugi says yeah, really good friends. Eva asks who the girl is, and Yugi says she's a friend. Eva asks if she's only a friend, and Yugi asks what else they would be. Eva wonders if he's really naive or just playing dumb to not understand what she's implying. Yugi asks what she got, and Eva shows a photo of her first weightlifting championship win. Yugi asks how much she benched, and Eva says she forgot because it broke the world record. If you look it up, it belongs to her. With each new PB they have to update the record. It's costing Guinness World Records millions to reprint the books. Heather says yeah, I really don't feel bad eliminating you. Duncan pulls out Scruffy, his pet tarantula, babying it, which gets Heather to laugh at him and Duncan to say whatever, she's just jealous of us, Scruffy. Heather hides hers and Duncan asks what it is, Heather saying it doesn't matter. Heather in confessional holds a stuffed animal and asks why they'd send me this. Are they trying to make me a laughingstock? Chris tells him it's time to blast off into the great unknowns. He'll need them to go to the thrill ride in 10 minutes. On the way there, Heather throws her package in the trash. Chris tells them that the first challenge will be to spend a night in the ship in zero gravity conditions. Chris starts the machine and the group floats around. Heather asks if she can have Duncan's pillow. Hers floated off somewhere, and Duncan says, sorry sister, I gave mine up to Scruffy. As they're all sleeping, the alarm starts blaring, and Chris tells them that they'll have to stop the plane. Duncan tells Yugi to stop it, and he shoves him to the control panel, Yugi pulling a lever and the ship stopping. All of them falling out, with Chris saying that Yugi has won the first part of the challenge. As a reward, he'll decide the order during the next challenge. Yugi says that he will have the order be him, Eva, Heather, and Duncan. Chris says great, can't wait, because of the next challenge, whoever performs the worst is going home. Duncan says he can't do that, what about the vote? And Chris says that Kaiba realized that the final four in any vote would just trigger a tiebreaker scenario anyway, so this is the fairest way to split up all 4 of you into going further on merit and not just because he got lucky. Heather says he really does just make up the rules as he goes. Chris tells him that the next challenge will be going into the vomit comet. It'll be Earth's gravitational pull times 4. Remember crew, Yugi already picked the order, and speaking of which, Yugi says he's really glad to not be in the vomit comet last. Duncan says, gee, thanks. Yugi gets into it and has a good start, but passes out after 20 seconds, Eva yelling for Chris to stop it, and Chris does so. 22 seconds. Nice job, Yugi. Next, Eva. Duncan asks where Scruffy went, and Eva sees the spider on her face as she's trapped in the vomit comet, and she yells at Chris that there's something in here besides her. Chris just starting it anyway, and Eva lasts 45 seconds.
Impressive.
Eva gets out, and Chris says that whatever was in there isn't alive anymore. Duncan asks Eva where Scruffy is as Eva tries to regain her balance balance, Duncan seeing the remains of Scruffy on Eva's back and falling to his knees in despair. Heather says it's alright, he's in a better place. Heather in confessional says yeah, anywhere but here. Duncan in confessional says maybe this is for the best, it'll be nice to be able to sleep without needing a bat next to his bed. Heather gets in next and spins around, vomiting in it after 23 seconds. Duncan says damn it, really couldn't have held it down for 3 more seconds. Heather says to not get eliminated. Duncan groans and gets in it, holding his mouth shut for as long as possible, but he eventually vomits as well. He gets out and Chris stares at his timer, everyone holding their breath in anticipation. Duncan got 22.1 seconds. That means Yugi is last. Heather says this format is still messed up, and Chris says, I know, I made a bet with Chef that Yugi would make it to the end, and now I'm down $50. Duncan says, damn, I can't believe he's really leaving. Chris says, yep, you can all say your goodbyes at the limousine. Everyone wishes Yugi well besides Eva, who's quiet until she suddenly tells Yugi that she really values his input. At first she thought she was calmer just because she improved, but she's the happiest and most calm around Yugi. Yugi made her a better person. Yugi asks what she's trying to tell him, and Eva says that she thinks she likes him. Yugi would say that he doesn't know if he feels the same way. Duncan says, you don't know? Yugi would say that he's never thought about that before. He doesn't want to say no, but he's never really thought about anything like this. Can he think about it first? Eva says of course, and Yugi thanks her, telling Eva that he's rooting for her as he leaves. Duncan says ouch, and Eva tells him to shut up. Yugi did not say no. Heather says no, Eva, that was the rejection. Yugi would think to himself about whether or not Eva would be the type of person he'd be happy with. Eva in confessional says that she doesn't care what they say. I know Yugi would have just rejected me outright if that was his answer. Duncan sees the box in the trash and takes it out, going to Heather and asking what this is about. Heather asks him where he found that, and Duncan says in the trash, just sitting on the top of it. Bury it next time if you don't want it to be found. She opens the box and finds a note that just says XOXO Duncan. Episode 24 begins with Duncan saying it's so quiet and boring here. He looks through his things and sees a card in it he didn't know he had. He also sees a note. He reads the note and it's from Yugi. I thought your deck was missing something. I hope this helps. Duncan turns the card to see what it is and says, damn it, Yugi. Still trying to teach me more about the game even when you're gone. It's a perfect fit. Heather says it sucks that Yugi is gone, but at least Eva is finally vulnerable. Eva says if she thinks Yugi was the one who gave her power, she's wrong. And Yugi already gave her plenty of motivation when he said he was hoping for her victory. I've been the winner of 5 challenges. You haven't done anything. Heather says she's right, but that won't continue. Chris welcomes them all to the final 3. He's tearing up at the fact that it's almost over because he won't get paid until the next season. Duncan says to stop with the stand-up and just to tell him what the next challenge is. Chris says, geez, touchy. Yugi's loss mean that much to you? Whatever. You've earned your placements. And now it's time to explore the Animal Buddy Challenge. Each of you will get an animal and you must teach it a trick. The one with the most impressive trick wins. Eva asks what animal they will get, and Chris says that he's glad they asked. Eva, you get a shark to match your fierceness. Duncan gets a chameleon to match his ability to remain in the shadows at crucial moments. And Heather gets a raccoon. Like a raccoon, you think you're the apex predator, when in reality you just search for trash for your allies. Heather says, clever, Chris. The 3 go off and Eva has to wrestle the shark to enforce her alpha status. She'd tell it that if it doesn't help her win, she'll turn him into shark sashimi. Heather tells the stupid raccoon to get out of the trash and do a trick or something. Duncan tries to get the chameleon to turn green like his mohawk, but it turns into every color besides green. The 3 show up and Chris tells them to show them what they've taught the animal. Heather says she couldn't teach this glorified rat anything, it mocking her, and Chris says, nice stand-up routine, Heather. Heather says she didn't teach this thing that. The raccoon continues mocking her and Chris says, alright, we get it. Moving on. Duncan shows off his chameleon turning green and Chris says, simple, but cool. Finally, Eva tells the shark to remember what will happen if he messes up as she climbs a ladder and holds a hoop as the shark jumps out of the water and through the hoop. Chris says that was awesome. The win clearly goes to Eva. Heather says, God, she can't ever lose. Chris says, don't worry, Heather, there's still one more part of the challenge. Chris walks off the bus and tells them that the next challenge is to find their way back to the film lot, a 10-mile hike from the woods with only their animals to guide them. The fastest one back wins immunity. Because she won the last part of the challenge, Eva gets 30 minutes shaved off her final time. Heather asks where Eva is, and Chris says she's out taking a swim. It cuts to her in the water with several sharks swarming around Eva, and Eva says that more numbers won't help. Chris tells them good luck before leaving. Heather tells the raccoon not to worry. Her sense of direction is unmatched. Wait, she's seen that tree before. The raccoon face palms. Duncan says he wishes he had the shark. He could have hitched a ride on it. The chameleon disappears and Duncan asks where it went, trying to find it, stepping into a trap and getting a rock hurled at his chest. Eva asks if he's finished now that his friends are destroyed, the shark running away as Eva chases after it. Heather asks if she's really gonna die out here, the raccoon pulling her arm before leading her back onto the path. Duncan tells the chameleon to just show back up so he can win the challenge. He then falls into a pit. Heather tells the raccoon they don't have time to go into his stupid cave. The raccoon going in anyway, and Heather asking if he heard her as she goes in and sees that the raccoons have built an advanced society with working electricity, butlers, and even a ping pong table. Heather says, wow, if I get eliminated, I'm definitely coming back here. The shark tries to grip onto the side of the waterfall, being relieved he didn't fall over just for Eva to tackle it off. Duncan begins to go insane inside of the pit from the thought of dying in these woods. Heather arrives first and Chris says she's the first team to arrive. Heather says in confessional that this raccoon turned out to be more than just a stupid trash panda, just like how she's more than someone who manipulates trash. Eva arrives hours later dragging the shark while Duncan arrives swinging in on a vine. Chris says that Heather has one immunity. Heather says, yes, you're so gone, Eva. Eva says, whatever, I got dinner tonight. Chris says, yeah, actually, we'll need to send that one back to the zoo. Chef grabs the shark and pulls it away as Eva yells to bring her dinner back. Duncan says he's sorry he lost the chameleon, only for the chameleon to have been revealed to be on his head the entire time, and Duncan goes into a catatonic state. Chris welcomes them to the Gilded Chris ceremony. This is a big one, cast. Heather is safe from immunity, so anyone else is fair game. Sharpen those claws and cast your votes. Someone is going home for the last time.
It's Duncan versus Eva. I'm calling
says it's not personal, Eva.
Duncan
I
versus
just
Heather.
need to win. Eva in confessional says she only has one option. Duncan in confessional asks how Heather likes it when someone manipulates her. Chris looks at the votes and says Gilded Chris awards go to Heather, and finally Eva.
What?
Eva yell what in astonishment. Duncan smiles and says it's his way to take responsibility for eliminating Beth. Eva says he didn't know he was that kind of guy, and Duncan says who knew, right? Well, see ya. As Duncan is walking, Heather tells him to cut her a break. It wasn't because he felt guilty about Beth, he just didn't want to pay her $500,000 in the finale if he won. Duncan feigns ignorance, asking what she means. He was just so torn up about Beth, he's gonna miss her. He fake cries and hugs her, and Heather tells her to get off of her. Alright, you made your point, good job. Duncan tells her that he still hopes she wins, and Heather says that her chances just skyrocketed with that challenge win. She's on the same level as Eva now. Duncan laughs at it and says he hopes that's true for her sake. Heather and Eva are in the trailer together, and Heather says that Eva better get comfortable because tomorrow she wins the million. Eva says, yeah, right, you got lucky one night out of the entire merge. Her and Yugi have been running the game. Anyone can see that to be the case. Heather says that she'll see. The finale is here. Chris tells the two that they don't really need any filler. Let's just get into the finale. Eva, Heather, you two will run through an obstacle course, and the first one to reach the end wins. The first part is clearly in Eva's favor. Her raw stats destroy Heather and gain a sizable lead. However, the issue starts when she reaches Chris and he starts asking questions about the contestants. This is when Heather starts catching up, knowing these obscure questions, even surprising herself. Although there are some questions she doesn't know, like what color Courtney is currently thinking about. She's thinking about burnt sienna, by the way. In the end, Heather has a sizable lead, but Eva is gaining quickly, both reaching out to enter the aftermath room to win, with both of them reaching it at the same time. Chris and Chef both deciding that it'll end in a vote. Eva's pitch is that she won more challenges. She won the game through physical means. Heather's pitch is that she survived past everyone's hatred and strategized her way to the win. Surely she deserves a vote for
Eva
making it, even with people wanting her gone. People hate to admit it, but both sides are impressive, but value different things. Challenge ability or strategic ability. Only the mergers can vote. Justin is still not out of his coma. Eva voters are Tyler and Trent. Heather voters are Duncan and Izzy. Yugi comes out of the voting booth and tells them that he tried to think of who to vote for, but they both deserve the win. Can they do a quick round of duel monsters to see who should win? Chris reminds him this is a 22-minute finale, and Kaiba says that actually sounds like a great idea. Suddenly an arena emerges from the ground and Heather whispers that they totally planned this. Eva and Heather draw their cards, and Eva sets Imperial Order onto the field and sets Goblin Attack Force in attack position before ending her turn. Heather plays Don Zalug and sets Trap Dust Shoot onto the field before activating Snatch Seal and taking Goblin Attack Force from Eva. Eva's hand twitches as she thinks about flipping Imperial Order, but she chooses not to go through with it. She needs to be patient. Not being patient and thinking things through is why she lost to Yugi. She takes the damage and it leaves her on death's door with only 300 life points left, the Goblin Attack Force flipping to defense. In turn 2, the noose loosens a little bit, with Eva gaining 1,000 life points from Snatch Steel's effect. Eva draws DD Warrior, and before she can play a card, Heather activates Trap Dust Shoe, and Eva's Boar Soldier is discarded. started. Eva notes that Heather is a real pain. She plays DD Warrior and she destroys Don Zalug, banishing DD Warrior and Don Zalug. Eva notes that Heather has controlling cards. One bad card and Eva's done for. She can't risk giving her the opportunity when she doesn't know what's in her hand. Heather draws Mind Crush. Heather plays Exchange and Eva activates her trap card, Imperial Order. She pays 700 life points to destroy Snatch Steal and also Exchange. Heather places a spell card on the field and she ends her turn. Eva pulls a card out and smiles, remembering Yugi. She sends Exiled Force and flips Goblin Attack Army back to attack. She places a spell card down on the field and attacks with Goblin Attack Army before ending her turn. Heather draws Spirit Reaper and sets it onto the field. Heather looks at her spell card as she contemplates activating it. Doing so can make or break this entire game. As long as Spirit Reaper's on the field, only spells can destroy it and she'll be safe from direct attacks. Heather decides it's worth the risk. She flips her trap card over, activating Crush Card Virus, sacrificing Spirit Reaper to activate it. Goblin Attack Army is destroyed. Amazonas Paladin is removed from Eva's hand. Exiled Force is revealed. Eva also has to go into her deck and get rid of 3 monsters that have 1500 or more attack. She gets rid of Amazonas Trainee, Amazonas Fighter, and Amazonas Chainmaster. Heather ends her turn. Eva draws Gaia Power, flipping Exiled Force to attack and playing Gaia Power to give Exiled Force 500 more attack. She attacks Heather's life points directly and ends her turn. Heather draws Change of Heart and tells Eva it's over. She plays Change of Heart, stealing Exiled Force from Eva and attacking her life points directly. Eva says it's her lucky day. Yugi has protected her. She flips Magic Cylinder and sends the attack back at Heather and eviscerates her life points, bringing an end to the match. Yugi would cast the vote for Eva and Eva would be in shock as she's named the winner. Yugi snapping her back to reality by telling her,
I just realized, behind me, you can't see me, it says Finale A, so there's 2 finales.
Congratulations, offering a handshake to her, and Eva accepts, thanking him for everything. She knows now, he's not hers to have. He has many people he needs to influence first. Maybe in the future they can be together, but for right now, she has to wait. Duncan tells Heather that she'll get her next time, and Heather says, whatever, I hate this stupid game. She opens her eyes as she realizes she can lie again. She isn't cursed anymore. She hugs Duncan before quickly pulling away. Duncan changes the subject by telling her he's curious if he would have gotten the final vote if he went to the finale. Care to find out? Heather says that he's on. Heather decides not to activate her trap card. She can't risk it. Even if it would destroy Eva's Goblin Attack Army, she ends her turn. Eva draws Gaia Power and she flips Exiled Force to attack before activating Gaia Power before attacking Heather's set card just for it not to get destroyed. Heather says that was desperate. I bet you thought that by some miracle nothing powerful was underneath. Imagine if I had a mystical elf. You would have been one step closer to losing. Eva says she talks too much. She ends her turn. Heather draws Change of Heart and plays it, stealing Exiled Force from Eva and attacking her life points directly. Eva uses Magic Cylinder to send the attack back at her to bring her life points down to 200. Eva thanks Yugi. He got her into a winning position. Heather ends her turn. Eva draws Reinforcement of the Army and plays it, obtaining Marauding Captain and playing it in attack position and ending her turn. She just has to live until next turn and hopefully she will get the other Marauding Captain, in which case Heather will be unable to attack. She ends her turn. Heather draws a card and says that Eva's right, it's time to end this. She plays Monster Reborn to take Goblin Attack Army out of Eva's graveyard and she summons it to her field and attack position. Heather then attacks Marauding Captain, bringing Eva's life points to 0. Eva is disappointing but says she still has a lot to learn. Yugi says to let him continue teaching her. They'll make sure she never loses again. Eva accepts, thanking him for everything. She knows now he's not hers to have. He has many people he needs to influence first. Maybe in the future they can be together, but for right now, she has to wait. Duncan tells Heather that she somehow managed it. Heather says, yeah, she told him that, didn't she? Duncan says, yeah, I guess you did. I should have believed you anymore. What's next for the dueling champion? Heather says she's done with this stupid game. It's too nerdy for her. Heather realizes she can lie once again. Duncan says that's disappointing. He was kind of hoping he could have seen if he would have won a duel if he went to the finale. Heather says it's a death wish, but she will humor it. Let's duel. And that's the end to a great season. Plenty of drama, twists, and turns to make this season even better than the first, but this is where the story ends. We'll return with Total Drama World Tour, where new faces will introduce themselves to the cast.
Like Bakura and who else?
Thank you all for your...
Honestly, I really like this. It was a lot of fun. It definitely was interesting, not gonna lie. I honestly really did like this story. It was so entertaining. I just wonder who is going to win the next season and who else is going to join, because obviously Bakura is going to be joining, but who else would be joining? Because there's obviously, unless he has both Sierra and Alejandra as well. I guess for now, that'll be the end of this. So until then, I'll see you whenever I post next, I guess. Bye, guys.